field hockey at the Hill School and was captain of the team at University of Maryland, where she came away with two NCAA D1 national field hockey championships. She has a PhD in exercise physiology from University of Otago and a master's degree from CSU Fullerton. In 2017, she founded the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling Team. It's an international women's team, and they have a great win rate. And beyond cycling, she works also as an exercise physiologist with a bunch of companies. A few that I wrote down here are Podium Sports LLC, Squat Max, Good Idea, Levels Health, Upgrade, and Cross Climber. So there may be more in there, Colleen, but we'll turn it over to you, and we're ready to listen.
And you really went back in the depths there. We're we're going way back. Do you have, I will share my screen if you give me 1 second so you can see what I'm seeing. Sorry. Here we go. All right. So hopefully you can see this. Got it. Okay, so Landon did a great job. Thank you. Ran through an introduction. Basically, my background comes on the sporting side from being a field hockey athlete and a pro cyclist. Just got off the Olympic long team this year, so that was a big milestone to hit. And then educationally came through a bioengineering and mechanical engineering background through muscle physiology and then a PhD in nutrition, endocrinology, and ex-phys. And then on the coaching side, I was the strength and conditioning coach for USA Beach Volleyball before I went back to get my PhD. So we'll jump right into it because I was a little ambitious with the amount that I could cover today. So I'm going to kind of steamroll this pretty quickly. And I'm hoping that anything that I kind of blaze through that you guys want some more topics on or some more information on, we'll come back to at the end. So I thought a fun topic that you guys would like, or hopefully would at least be new to you, would be the concept of performance detractors when it comes to nutrition. So I don't really feel the need to beat you guys over the head with the hard-hitting topics. I mean, you guys know your protein types, your ratios, carb to protein ratios, creatine, stuff like that. However, I'm always up for a good protein discussion. That was part of my PhD. So if you are interested in that, let me know later. But I really want to talk about some of the nutritional oversights that kind of get lost in the shuffle and have a really big possibility to negatively impact you or your athlete's performance. So the major topics are going to be vitamin B, magnesium, iron, and zinc. And with each one, we'll go through, is it actually a problem? Like, is it a thing that is really only specific to a target population, or is it something that is generally something to look out for in all athletes? And then what about for normal life, for normal humans who are non-athletes? Why would they feel that this is important? What kind of information are you going to get from the outside about why these different factors are important? And then specifically for your athletes, what do we care about? And then some signs of deficiencies, how to fix them, and then sources and types. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. When it comes to vitamin B, is it actually a problem? Well, we know that an adequate supply of vitamin B is really important for the proper functioning of multiple energy systems, but each vitamin B actually impacts you in different ways. So a shortage of these could actually become a rate limiting step in multiple different enzymatic processes. But some of the big ones are vitamin B12. And we'll get into this a little bit more later, but you need B12 and iron to actually make a healthy red blood cell. So that's a big part of your health and your performance. And the fact that some people actually do have vitamin B12 deficiency, then we've got a big issue. But now we've got 12% of adults have an insufficiency. So it's not clinical, but they're low. And then we know that we actually lose B12 every day. So that's even more of a reason to stay on top of it. And we know that there is a pretty widespread prevalency for at least being inefficient, right? And then why is it important for normal life? We've got a lot. We've got metabolism, we've got mood, memory, immune system, what I just mentioned, forming red blood cells, that combined with the iron. And the big issue is that, especially for B12, deficiencies are normally seen in the neurological side, and that's how we pick them up. And that's when things get really bad. So we've got cognitive decline, dementia, some sensory disturbances, but it's actually a problem well before that, especially for your athletes, because we don't want them to be normal, we want them to be exceptional. So falling below normal to a clinical issue is even more of a problem. For athletes, we know that B vitamins are essential for central nervous system function. So it's going to matter for their energy production, and it's also going to improve running time to exhaustion, blood lactate and blood ammonia concentrations, both during exercise and rest. So making sure that we're staying on top of that is going to be important for most athletes. This is what always gets me, deficiencies. And that's why I love giving the whole nutritional aspect of this talk. Ones that are in almost every deficiency, like sign of deficiency, is going to be fatigue and irritability. Well, how do you know that? Because you've got an athlete that's in the middle of a big training block. They're fatigued all the time. They're irritable all the time. They're hungry and tired all the time. Um, is that because of the nature of the exercise? Is that because you've got an insufficiency somewhere? Is it a combination? And the bummer about some of these vitamins and minerals is that, especially for vitamin B, we don't have a great way to test it. It's not well measured in the blood, and that's because vitamin B is primarily in the cell, it's not in the serum. And the way that we normally identify it in a blood draw would be MCV, which is mean corpuscular volume. And that's basically the average size of your red blood cell. So that number would go up, that MCV would go up if you have a B12 or a B6 deficiency, which is pretty common. But it would also go down in the presence of inflammation or iron deficiency, which means your athletes could have both an iron deficiency or inflammation, which they likely have if they're training a lot, and you have a reduced or an insufficient amount of B12 and B6, but you're actually showing a normal value. So that's the main reason why blood draws aren't great for that. Plus, we've got normal versus normal for your sport versus normal for your level of competition versus normal values for that individual. And those are all different. Okay. But anyway, now we've got an issue. How do we fix it? So if you have a dietary insufficiency, then it depends on the cause, but basically, if it's a dietary insufficiency, you eat more. And 1,000 to 2,000 per day has been shown to be helpful. It's water soluble, so it's pretty hard to overdose on the vitamin B. I think liquid, in my personal preference, is faster to be absorbed and it's easier to be absorbed. So that's usually my go-to. Um, but if it's an absorption problem, then intramuscular injections are usually given twice a week on alternating days, depending on the severity of the deficiency, and then that could be titrated off. You're going to speak with a clinician about that. That is above most of our areas of expertise for that. But a reason why you would have a malabsorption error is that you have an intrinsic factor, is a protein that's made in the stomach, and you need that for absorption. And so without this intrinsic factor, you can eat as much vitamin B as you want, and you won't be able to absorb it very well. And so there's certain autoimmune conditions that athletes can have where the body would produce antibodies against this intrinsic factor, and that would result in a vitamin B malabsorption. Okay, so that's a different road to go down, but something to be aware of. How do you get vitamin B? Supplements, chicken, salmon, eggs. A lot of high protein foods have a lot of vitamin B, so your athletes are likely getting a good amount of those. Leafy greens are always a big one that people hate to eat, but are, got to be in there for multiple reasons. Okay. All right. So our next one, magnesium. Is it a problem? Generally, yes, because most people don't eat enough. Why do we care about it? Is that magnesium is in almost every interaction in the body that requires ATP, and that's about 80% of metabolic functions, so it's a lot. It's also the seventh most abundant macro mineral. So there's a lot of it in the body, which means even if you're deficient, you still need more to keep up with that. And it's involved in, I said 600 enzymatic reactions. That's a ballpark about, it's a lot. And that's everything from synthesis of DNA to muscle function, nervous system, ATP, bone health. Okay, we've got a lot going on with magnesium, which makes it super important. For athletes, it's a cofactor for muscle function, nervous system function, bone health, and ATP production, obviously, all of which are going to be important for your exercisers. And for athletes, it's depleted 20% faster, sorry, than non-exercisers. So if most people aren't already eating enough, now I'm going to assume that your athletes are likely in that group, or some of them are, of not eating enough. And now you're depleting it even faster. Okay. A fun part about magnesium is that high caffeine and low sodium and low selenium further reduce your magnesium. So you've got athletes who are taking coffee. Some of them are on a low sodium diet or they're excreting a lot of salt in their sweat. If they're an endurance athlete, you're going to further reduce that magnesium. Okay. So training hard and having coffee means you probably need to boost that number even more. Signs of deficiency is loss of appetite. Again, that could happen with training. All right, we've got fatigue, weakness, some muscle contractions or cramps, like some twitching. Okay, that could be a good sign for a magnesium deficiency. But again, we've got some problems with how we test it. Serum magnesium is not really indicative of a whole body status. You really need to be clinically low to have that show up on a blood draw. But people do have it in a blood draw. And the reason for that is that it provides a lot of insight into your kidney and your liver function. So it's not really meant to actually correlate with your magnesium status. It's used to be a kind of canary in the mine for some other issues. And there are actually some validated questionnaires, and I can dig those up if anybody's interested in them, that have better results than a blood draw for diagnosing magnesium deficiency. But what you would really need to do would be either a validated questionnaire is probably the easiest way, or there's something called a magnesium retention test, or at least measure the level of magnesium in white blood cells, okay? Because that's a measure of the magnesium in skeletal muscle, and that accounts for about 30% of your whole body magnesium, and that's pretty important, especially in skeletal muscle for your athletes. Okay, so how do we fix it? Daily RDA is 400 to 420. We know that exercisers use it or lose it a little bit faster, so a little bit more will probably be better. And we've got a daily tolerable upper intake of 350, and that is just in supplements. So whatever you have in food does not count towards that 350 a day. That's a superfluous 350. And I would argue that that could probably be buffered a little bit depending on the size of your person, but that's what we have for the literature, so that's what we're going by for now. Sources, leafy greens are again appearing. Okay, we've got just a lot of healthy foods. That's an easy Googleable aspect for high magnesium foods. You guys can look that up. There's a whole lot. But supplements, and this is where it gets fun. Most forms of supplemental magnesium work to help you maintain a sufficient magnesium status. However, it is fun to note that different forms help different types of people. Okay, so I'm going to mainly focus on the ones on top here, for the types of magnesium. You can see there's a lot of different types that you can supplement with, but the ones on the top are the ones that are mainly important for your athletes. And the magnesium orotate, it's actually created through mineral salts, and it can penetrate the cell membrane. So that's really helpful for helping to reach the mitochondria and the nuclei of your cells. So that's a good one for athletes. Um, which one's next? Magnesium glycate. Okay, that's chelated. And so it's a chelated form of magnesium, means that the mineral has been bound to an amino acid or an organic acid, and that helps it to improve absorption. So we already know that magnesium glycinate is going to be highly bioavailable, which actually makes it a great idea for people who want to restore their magnesium levels really quickly. But this is one that you want to have right before sleep because it does make you kind of tired and actually has been shown to help some of your sleep health stages. Um, Magnesium carbonate, that's the active ingredient in Tums. So a lot of people are familiar with it from a athlete standpoint, especially endurance athletes. A lot of them take it anyway or taking Tums on a daily basis. So that might be something that they already have in their diet. It's not a whole lot of magnesium in there, so I wouldn't, recommend just crushing the Tums every day, but it is an option. Okay. Um, Magnesium sulfate. Okay, so that's Epsom salts is another name for it, or milk of magnesia, and it can help to reduce muscle soreness when you apply it topically, but it's an easy one to overdose on, and it is actually a laxative. So be careful with that one, in terms of your doses and supplementation. The ones on the bottom are not super important for athletes. The only one that I would say is magnesium oxide to be aware of because it's cheap. It comes in a lot of different supplements, but it's not very bioavailable. So it's probably not the best option if you want to restore magnesium levels. Okay. I personally prefer magnesium orotate as an endurance athlete. But glycinate, I've had some experience with that in terms of improving sleep. But there are a lot of other variables that are happening throughout a training cycle to really narrow down if that is the variable that is impacting the sleep health. Okay, so let's move on. Iron. Is it a problem? Yes, that is an easy answer. It is a very big blanket problem because up to 30% of female endurance athletes have some level of iron deficiency at some point in their training, which is huge. So female athletes in general are at a higher risk for iron deficiency, and that makes sense. You have a lot more menstrual blood loss, likely less dietary intake, and we have an increased need of iron during exercise. Okay. And the reason why it's really challenging to manage is, especially for endurance female athletes, is because most of them want to maximize body composition. And that could be because their sport demands it. So their intake of food in general might be lower, which means that you're getting a lower intake of iron because you're eating less food in general. Okay. Why is it important for normal life? Oxygen transport. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, that's easy. We know that iron helps to transport oxygen throughout the body. For athletes, oxygen uptake. Okay, it reduces heart rate. It can decrease lactate concentrations during exercise and thus improve threshold work. It can also improve work capacity with the correction of iron deficiency anemia. And if iron gets low, it can also reduce the thyroid function, which then can reduce time trial performance, reduce energy efficiency. It can hurt lactate threshold and your time to exhaustion. So there's a lot that go on with this. Okay, signs of deficiencies. Again, we've got fatigue, weakness, cold intolerance is a big one with iron. And shortness of breath, I mean, for athletes, that is almost a worthless sign. How do you tell that? They're working out to the point where they're short of breath every day. And then there are some interesting contributing factors that go with it. I covered a few of them. Exercise-induced GI bleeding is normal. Okay, almost every endurance exerciser has it. It's minimal, but you do exercise enough and it accumulates over time. Same with GI inflammation and heel strike hemolysis. We know that that's when you are, especially for runners, especially distance runners, that you're striking, you're actually squishing the red blood cells in the bottom of your heel. Again, we're not like losing pints of blood a day doing this, but you run enough over time and you keep squishing those red blood cells, you're breaking them. And that can lead to a significant deficiency over time. Um, Also, intramuscular pressure. So we've got the heel strike for the runners. Intermuscular pressure is more common for cyclists, because it's that squeezing of the muscle, like big muscle groups, like your quads, that will actually have enough pressure within the muscle that it will break the red blood cell. Okay. NSAIDs, normal exercise-induced hepcidin release. Okay, this is a big one because we know that hepcidin is released during exercise, and that helps for about 4 hours after exercise, and that inhibits iron absorption. So we don't really want to have any iron supplements. We're not going to maximize any type of iron absorption for the 4-ish hours immediately following exercise. So if you're going to take an iron supplement or you're going to top up on something, do it before, do it in the morning, or do it at night, way after exercise. What else we have here? How to fix it. Okay. So you got heme and non-heme. So you have two different types of iron. Heme is primarily your meat sources, so that's your liver, your red meats. Non-heme is your plant sources, so that's your spinach, leafy greens, things like that. All right. We also have, oh, there's one other thing I wanted to mention is there are blood tests for iron. that can pick up a deficiency, and there's a lot of them. You've got your, I can put a list in later, but there's a lot. Hemoglobin, MCV hematocrit. You can look at hepcidin. It's something called TIBC is another good marker. So there's a lot. But sorry, let's go back to how to fix it. We talked about the timing of intake in terms of not 4 hours after exercise, and supplements are great. The only thing is with supplements, you got to be a little careful of constipation with iron. So if you're taking a pill form, be a little wary of that. Liquid is a little bit better in terms of the absorption standpoint. I've actually found it's a company called Floridix. They have a mechanism of action that is completely around your hepcidin release, so you don't have to worry about timing at all. It's an extended release iron, and it actually comes in a pill and a liquid. The liquid has to be refrigerated, so it's a little bit dicey with travel. Also, if you spill it, it stains because it's iron. So I would recommend the pill form of that. It was called Floridix, and I believe they're sold worldwide. But that would be something that I would highly recommend for female athletes. Okay. And then what else do we have here? Sources and types, we kind of covered that. Molasses, dried figs. Molasses is a big one for the holidays. So, top up on your gingerbread cookies and you'll be good to go. All right. See if I can crush through this. I know I'm probably running long, so I apologize. Uh, okay, so for zinc, um, zinc is low in about 25% of endurance athletes, low or insufficient. So I'm going to say it's a problem, but for strength athletes, probably not a big deal. You're probably in the clear on this. So why is it important for normal life? Zinc is huge for protein synthesis, endocrine function. We know that it's big for glucose regulation and for wound healing. So if your athletes are, in injured reserve for some reason, then might want to make sure that this is one that they top up on. It plays a role in a lot of different skin conditions, thyroid function. For kids, it's great for growth and development. And for athletes, good for muscle function. So we know that athletes who increase their zinc is great for muscle function in terms of zinc deficiencies can reduce muscle mass and it can actually hurt the number of fast twitch fibers that you have. So it's going to impair your overall muscle function. In terms of metabolism, we know that a zinc deficiency, or I should say, zinc impairs some of the metabolic functions that go with exercise. Zinc's important for bone health. All right. Athletes who are low in zinc are more risk of having lower bone mineral density, okay, which also increases your risk of bone fractures. And then when it comes to immunity, upper respiratory tract infections are athletes, some of their most reported illnesses, especially for endurance athletes. So studies have shown that if you're higher on zinc or at least up to a normal level, that you're going to reduce that infection period and actually reduce the recurrence of upper respiratory tract infections. So that's a big one. And that can be taken by, there's like throat lozenges. I think it's zinc acetate is in the throat lozenges. I can double check on that. But they have about 75 milligrams of zinc every day. And that has been enough to reduce that risk of upper respiratory tract infections. So that's an easy way to fix that. Signs of deficiency. All right, weight loss, again, that can come with training. Decreased appetite, again, can come with training. Altered sense of smell or taste. I actually don't know anybody who has picked up on this enough to put that as a sign of zinc deficiency, but something to be aware of. Hair thinning, that can also be a protein issue. So again, there's a lot of different things that could be a sign of this. We don't have a super great way to measure it, but you can top up on it and just make sure that you're getting enough every day, and that will likely reduce any potential for issues. So we know that long term, we're safe with 20 to 40 milligrams per day. Okay. And if you take it with 1 to 2 milligrams of copper, that's great too. And taking more than 300 milligrams is when we get into that danger zone. And that's when we can actually work against ourselves and impair immune function. Okay. So some sources, we've got animal proteins, legumes, almonds, bunch of nuts and seeds, basically, fish and baked beans. All right. I think we made it through that relatively quickly. for any of you guys, reach out to me via email. I know we're going to have questions, but take down my email anytime. I've got some educational content up on my Instagram. And if you shoot me an email, I've got a Substack platform that I post a bunch of different content on. It could be muscle physiology related, nutrition, sport performance, whatever, every Wednesday. So if you shoot me an email, I'll get you a subscription for free. And then you'll be good to go and have access every week to some different content.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Colleen. And what's cool is you're putting all of this into practice. So you're in the trenches. So when you're talking about all of this stuff, it's like, oh, okay, I know that works. We had one question from Zane, and he said, "What are some common nutrition myths you wish more S&C coaches would stop believing?"
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know if this is really an S&C problem, but something that just popped into my mind is the whole concept of um, creatine actually making you like gain 1 million pounds and how you can only take that if you want to be a jack guy. And that's not true at all. We know that creatine has a million different functions from brain to muscle function to repeatability and work capacity. I don't really think that's so much with the strength and conditioning. I think that's more with the general population. But it was something that immediately popped into mind as like a red flag. I saw a question just pop up somewhere.
Yeah, Luis
Any,
had one.
okay, any favorite apps or tools for tracking nutrient intake? Yeah, okay, it's a tough one because everybody lies. Um, so if you ask them to keep a food journal, it's really hard to make sure that that's accurate. The easiest way that I've found, because it's easy for the athletes, so it helps them to really monitor and they're going to be more likely to actually do it, is that MyFitnessPal. It's an app because you can just take a barcode. You can scan the barcode of your food and it'll automatically upload all the information. So they don't actually have to enter in each, like, oh, I had 1 cup of blueberries from such and such a source, especially because, a Hot Pocket is not a sandwich. Is that like there are foods that you would call the same thing that actually have dramatically different nutritional composition. So by scanning the barcode, you can actually get a pretty good estimate. Yeah. What
Colleen,
else?
you had mentioned magnesium orotate. Um, do you take that yourself? And if so, at what time of the day?
I do. And I take it at night only because I I take very few things in the morning, but magnesium and I want to try and keep my iron different from my magnesium from my calcium. So I'm taking magnesium at night and especially because if there is any possibility that it could make me sleepy, I'm going to push it towards the end of the day. Just why not? But yes, I do take it and I've again, it's hard to tell because you're going by feeling on a lot of these things since there's no great way to measure it. In some things, I say it's relatively cheap. And if I know that I'm not eating a lot of magnesium-rich foods, then why not take it? If there's any possibility that it could help performance, I mean, you spend so much money on so many other aspects of sport. If I am not willing to spend $15 a month to try and keep that healthy, then I don't know. I feel like that's it. And I'll throw away that $15 a month just in case.
What are the top five um, supplements that you would suggest an S&C coach have on hand for athletes coming or going from the gym?
Oh, you mean to physically have in your possession as you walk in and out? Oh, it depends on your goal as an athlete. If you're gonna have a strength, an athlete who's wants to increase strength and not really care about endurance, then I think you're gonna focus on a lot more muscle building supplements, which would be you know, it could be a big range, but every protein, creatine, carbs are the easy ones. Iron, you're not going to have on hand coming in and out of the gym, and also not really great for strength. I would say beta echoldosterone is a good one for strength, but there's some interesting interactions with that. So that's like a whole nother animal. Um, but I I would just cover the basics right now. In terms of supplements for endurance athletes, not so much leaving the gym, but to make sure that they have them on hand at some point, I would definitely go. Actually, hold on, let me backtrack. I would give magnesium for sleep for the strength athletes, um, in terms of a recovery and sleep standpoint. And most people's sleep is trash. So that's an easy way to kind of make up that difference in performance, by really fine tuning that. But endurance athletes. Sorry, we're gonna go with iron, huge one. Vitamin B, huge one. Oh, vitamin B goes in the strength bucket too because of your CNS function. So especially if you've got athletes in the gym who are like doing a high 1 rep max and you're having them do it over and over again, some people start to shake in between. That can be either a low glucose, or actually vitamin B can help to stop that. So if you've got those like fatigue tremors, your CNS is not basically regenerating, if I will, as fast. It's a bad word, but rebooting, I guess, as fast as it should between efforts. Vitamin B is a good one for that. I'm bouncing all over the place, so I'm sorry. And then we're gonna go back to the endurance side. Zinc is big because upper respiratory tract infections are huge for endurance athletes, and they can set you down for such a long time. You got to make sure you get rid of that as much as you can. And there are other things you could do for that that are non-supplement related, like taking a humidifier with you when you travel. Make sure that hotel rooms aren't dry. Um, Preemptively doing lozenges. There's a lot that goes into that. But yeah, be my go-to.
Um, Taurine for strength or endurance.
Yeah, okay, good one. Hard to absorb. I've seen some things that do it, or some products out there that have like an intermuscular taurine. So it's like a cream or a topical. I don't know if it's any good. I actually haven't looked into that very much. Uh, so I don't know. Let me get back to you on that. I'm gonna write that down though, 'cause now you got me going down a rabbit hole. Okay.
Oh, this is awesome, Colleen. And if anyone has questions, they are welcome to put them in the chat or just unmute and jump in. Do you see collagen as, uh, or where would you rate collagen as to importance for strength um, athletes?
Pretty darn low. It depends on the situation. There are exceptions. But if you can get your protein from sources like a whey, or we know that taking a casein before bed, is gonna optimize muscle protein synthesis overnight. So I would focus on those two to be your primary. Collagen is a great after effect. If you have a tendon injury, if you have um, an athlete who is maybe like weak hair, nails, kind of, they want to focus on that. That's another aspect. Their collagen would come into play. But unless they have some kind of tendon ligament injury, I wouldn't worry about it so much.
And then as you are traveling for your various races, what what are there any supplements you take to make up for any inconsistencies while traveling?
Yeah, few. I've actually been really dreading. I've really avoided taking this for so long, but I actually started last year and it's been great, and that's melatonin. Um, Only because it can knock you out, but there isn't really any guarantee that you're going to help your sleep quality. So you can extend that sleep time, but you don't really know if it's going to be any better. But sometimes when you're up at 2 in the morning, it doesn't really matter if it's better. I just don't want to be awake. I just want to get on that time zone as fast as possible. So that has been something that I've taken recently, but you don't want to take that habitually. I think the cap on that's about 2 months until you want to cycle off. There's a new company out there called Fly Kit. It's made by Fount, and they supposedly have a huge, it's like a supplement pack that is targeted to reduce inflammation and jet lag for athletes. And they actually have, it's like you put it in an app, an AI app, and it's gonna spell out what you take when, and it's all NSF for sports certified. Um, and I have it. I haven't gotten a chance to try it yet. So look into it. It might be a possibility, but I can't comment on that personally. And well, no, there's nothing else that's really different timing wise for travel. Everything else is pretty consistent. Actually, electrolytes are a big one when I land. I always have those like little Propel mini packs. I've tried the limit stuff, the limit packs, and there is so much salt in there. I can't do it. Some people can, not for me. Yeah.
And then we're please tell us about the various nutrition needs that you see across different athletes, for example, on your racing team.
Okay. Pretty wide range. I don't work with the athletes on my own team. But obviously I spend a lot of time with them. So we kind of got an idea of everybody's little quirks and everybody's different needs. But we have one who's a vegan and a vegetarian, which always makes life hard. Um, and then a lot of people who are, I mean, in general, everybody's just into the high protein. I don't think anybody else is really dialing it in as much as I do for myself. Part of that is because some teams have their own like doctors that will help with some general recommendations. And also part of that is that everybody kind of has their own routine over time and you know what works for you, so you keep doing it. Whether that's the best way, who knows? But if it works for you, then can't really argue with it. Um, but traveling, I think the golden rule nutritionally, especially when you travel with national team stuff, is get food whenever you can. If there's an opportunity to get it, grab it because you don't really know when the next one's coming, and you don't really know what you're going to be able to eat, especially for South American trips. That always makes life interesting with water quality issues. We had a trip to Jakarta last year that was not enjoyable in terms of food issues with water and some lack of choices. So taking whatever supplements you can with you is going to be a huge win. And especially, I always travel with vitamin B and vitamin D now. D just to avoid getting sick, and because a lot of times I'm doing an indoor sport, it's track cycling, so we're not in the sun a ton when we're competing. Um, and vitamin B for a bunch of the reasons I just mentioned, and also because a lot of times I don't have access, especially for South American trips, to vegetables. And if we're there for 2 weeks, I actually had an instance at Pan Am's a couple years ago where my nails just stopped growing. My hair, my nails just I was there for like 2.5 weeks, and it was just I came back with a massive vitamin B deficiency, and that kind of set me on this roller coaster. But you can't eat any vegetables for 2.5 weeks. It's going to set you back.
Actually, that reminds me, I had seen on your social media you kind of unpacking a backpack on one of your travels and listing some of the um, things that you bring. It looks like you become quite an expert on a perfect travel trip.
Oh, I've got like a Mary Poppins bag that is just never ending.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
it is good, especially for national team stuff. It's you don't really use any of it any other time, so you can come back, wash it, and then just repack it, and it goes right in the closet. A couple weeks later, you're on another trip, just wheel the suitcase out, pack a bike, and go. But yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, And then any other um, any other supplements you would recommend for strength athletes? I think we already covered that one though. Well, I think you were good. I think you had said, let's see, protein, creatine, and then you had mentioned one beta echoldesterone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna maximize muscle protein synthesis. But it interacts with a bunch of different medications. So if people are on medications, that could be a problem. So I'm gonna leave that to everybody to look at individually or talk to me later on because that's gonna be a case by case basis.
That reminds me, what about beta alanine or citrulline malate? Do you take either of those or recommend them?
I tried it. Um, Kind of made me nauseous. Didn't really feel like it did a ton for me. Probably because it's not super applicable to my event. So I kind of ditched it. But I there is a use for it and there are cases for it. It's just making sure that you're not getting those tinglies from the beta alanine. It was going to help. So playing with the dosage is really going to be important.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Cool. That's also the end of the questions that we had come up with on our side, Colleen. So it looks like if there's no other ones in the chat, we can wrap it up. But this has been phenomenal. Really cool to kind of tap into your expertise. And then would you mind just putting your email address in the chat just so folks
Sure.
can connect with you if they would like? And then you said
Absolutely.
you were kind of not having to travel for any races for a little while. It's just recuperation.
Yeah, I'm home. Just got back from London about a week and a half ago. So I am now officially in the off season. Whew. So
Got it. Got it.
here for a little bit.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, thank you again so much, Colleen. We really appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And it's been great
Yeah.
to speak with you all.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.